I never thought I'd be the guy posting one of these stories. The one whose life implodes so spectacularly that internet strangers would be reading about it. Yet here I am. They created this throwaway account because what happened to me over the past week has been all over the local news, and I need somewhere to put these thoughts before I lose my mind. It started last Friday. Normal day. I was working from home, finishing up a project deadline while my wife Rebecca was supposedly at her sister's place helping plan a baby shower. We'd been married for 6 years. Not perfect, but whose marriage is? The occasional argument about money or whose turn it was to do the dishes. Looking back, there were signs, late nights at work, new clothes, being oddly protective of her phone, but I trusted her. That's what marriage is supposed to be about, right? At 3:42 p.m. I'll never forget the time. I got a text that made my blood run cold. Mark, help. They've been kidnapped. They grabbed me from the parking lot. I am in a trunk. Don't call police or they kill me. They asking for money. I'll try to text more when I can. I am so scared. My hands started shaking so badly I dropped my phone. My stomach plummeted and I felt like I might throw up. I tried calling her immediately, straight to voicemail. I texted back asking where she was, who took her, what they wanted. No response. 10 agonizing minutes passed. Then another text. Don't know where I am. They took my purse. Said they watching you. Don't call police. They contact you about ransom. I was hyperventilating by this point. I called her sister. She hadn't seen Rebecca all day. They weren't planning any baby shower. That's when the panic really set in. I paced our living room, pulling at my hair, trying to think. Everyone knows you're supposed to call the police in these situations, but what if they were watching me? What if they killed her because I made the wrong move? After an hour of this torture with no further messages, I couldn't take it anymore. I called 911. Within 20 minutes, 2 officers were at my door, then detectives, then more police. They took my phone, looked at the messages, asked endless questions about Rebecca, our marriage, her routine, her friends. They wanted photos, her social media passwords, access to our bank accounts. I gave them everything. By nightfall, our house was a command center. The detectives explained this was now a potential kidnapping case, and time was critical. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, just sat on our couch watching officers go through our lives with rubber gloves on, cataloging our existence, searching for clues. The next morning, the press got wind of it. By noon, there were news vans parked outside our house. Rebecca's photo was everywhere. Local news, social media, flyers. Her face on screens with "missing" underneath. The police spokesperson gave a press conference on our front lawn. I stood beside them, looking like a ghost, begging anyone with information to come forward. My phone rang constantly. Her parents, my parents, friends, co-workers. Everyone asking what happened, if there was news, how I was holding up. I wasn't holding up. I was disintegrating. That night, I finally got another text from Rebecca's phone. Mark, they moving me. I think we going to a different location. They want $50,000. Don't tell police about this message. The detectives monitoring my phone saw it immediately. They said kidnapping for ransom was actually a good sign. It meant she was likely still alive. They started setting up for a potential ransom drop, putting together the money from an emergency fund. I kept thinking, this isn't real. This doesn't happen to normal people like us. Then one of the detectives pulled me aside with an odd look on his face. Mr. Lawson, we've been tracking your wife's phone. The signal's been moving, but not in a pattern consistent with most kidnappings. What does that mean? I asked. It means we need to follow this lead. We're going to move on the location tonight. What I didn't know then was that my world wasn't just about to change. it was about to be set on fire and pushed off a cliff. The detective's words kept echoing in my head. Not in a pattern consistent with most kidnappings. What did that even mean? I was about to find out. Around midnight, a team of officers prepared to raid what they believed was the location where Rebecca was being held. I begged to go, but they refused, standard protocol. Instead, I sat in our living room with a victim advocate who kept offering me tea I didn't want and platitudes that didn't help. My phone was with the tech team, being monitored for any further communications from the kidnappers. At 2:17 a.m., my doorbell rang. 2 detectives stood there, their faces telling me everything before they said a word. "Mr. Lawson, we've located your wife." My knees nearly gave out. Is she okay? Is she hurt?" The female detective's expression was unreadable. "She's physically fine, sir. But there's something you need to know. They brought me to the station rather than the hospital, which should have been my first clue." In a small conference room with stale coffee and flickering fluorescent lights, they showed me the photos. Rebecca, completely unharmed, in room 118 of the Skyview Motel off Highway 16. Rebecca, wearing lingerie I'd never seen before. Rebecca, with a man I instantly recognized as her ex-boyfriend from before we met, David something. The one she always described as psychotic and the biggest mistake of my life. There were wine bottles, strawberries, rose petals on the bed, a "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door. "We have video footage from the motel," the detective said carefully. "She checked in voluntarily yesterday afternoon, about an hour before you received the first text message." I just stared at him. The texts came from her phone, Mr. Lawson. She sent them. It felt like being hit by a train. She faked her own kidnapping? It appears so. To be with him? They'd taken them both in for questioning. They're in separate rooms now. I demanded to see her. The detective advised against it, but I insisted. They led me down a hallway to an interview room. Through the one-way glass, I could see her. My wife of 6 years. The woman I'd been frantically searching for, crying over, imagining tortured or dead in a ditch somewhere. Sitting there in sweatpants and a t-shirt the police had given her, tear-streaked makeup, looking annoyed more than anything. When they let me in, she actually had the audacity to try to hug me. "Mark, baby, this is all a huge misunderstanding." I stepped back. "A misunderstanding? You texted me that you were kidnapped. I can explain everything. David and I." "David? Your psychotic ex? That David?" She flinched. "It's complicated. We reconnected at my gym a few months ago." "Months? And things just happened. I was going to tell you, I swear. But I knew you'd overreact." "Overreact? To what? You cheating on me or you faking your own kidnapping?" A detective stepped in then, suggesting I take a moment. I was shaking so badly I could barely stand. In the hallway, they explained what they knew so far. Rebecca had been seeing David for at least 3 months. They'd planned a weekend getaway while I was supposed to be at a work conference next week, but David couldn't get the days off. So they decided to do it now, and she came up with the kidnapping story to explain her absence. "She didn't expect you to call the police," the detective said. "She thought you'd just wait for further instructions that would eventually lead to her being released on Sunday night." "Are you fucking kidding me?" "She sent me a text saying she was kidnapped. What was I supposed to do?" "Sir, we understand you upset." "Upset? I am not upset. I don't even know what I am." They explained she was being charged with filing a false police report, misuse of emergency services, and potentially more charges pending DA review. The resources that had been allocated to find her, dozens of officers, forensic teams, the FBI was even being called in, all because she wanted a weekend sex romp with her ex. I went home alone at dawn. Our house was still a crime scene of sorts, yellow tape across the door, evidence markers on things they'd been processing. I sat on our bed, and tried to process what had happened. My phone buzzed constantly with concerned messages from people who seen the news about Rebecca's disappearance but not the update. Around noon, her mother called. She was hysterical, having just learned the truth. How could she do this to us? To you? I raised her better than this. I had no answers. That afternoon, Rebecca was released on bail, paid by David, apparently. She came to the house to collect some belongings while a police officer stood by. I refused to speak to her. She left a tear-stained note that I tore up without reading. By evening, the story had leaked to the press. My kidnapped wife wasn't kidnapped at all. She was shacking up with an ex while the city mobilized to find her. The headlines were merciless. Wife fakes kidnapping for motel tryst. Damsel in distress or cheating wife? Local woman charged after kidnapping hoax. I turned off the TV, silenced my phone, and drank until I couldn't feel anything anymore. I woke up the next morning on the couch with a pounding headache and 47 missed calls. My brother had driven over and was pounding on the door, having seen the news. When I finally let him in, his face was a mix of concern and barely contained rage. "Have you seen what they saying online?" he asked. I hadn't been too busy drinking myself into oblivion to check social media. He showed me his phone, and I felt sick all over again. The story had gone viral overnight. Local news had picked it up first, then national outlets. #fake kidnapping was trending. People were sharing the security camera footage from the motel lobby showing Rebecca checking in, laughing, hand in hand with David. Someone had dug up her social media profiles and his. Internet sleuths were piecing together their relationship timeline, finding comments they left on each other's posts going back months. But the worst part? Rebecca had given an interview. She did what? I nearly dropped my brother's phone. There she was on morning television, mascara-stained cheeks, wearing what I recognized as her job interview outfit, conservative, respectable, designed to make her look like a victim. "I made a terrible mistake," she was saying, voice quavering perfectly. "I never meant for any of this to happen." The interviewer, to her credit, wasn't letting her off easy. "You texted your husband that you had been kidnapped. What did you think would happen?" "I just needed time to figure things out," Rebecca said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "My marriage has been difficult. Mark has anger issues. I was afraid of how he would react if I just told him I needed space." My jaw dropped. Anger issues? Me? I never so much as raised my voice to her in 6 years. "That lying bitch," my brother growled. The interview got worse. She implied I was controlling, that I monitored her whereabouts, that she felt trapped. She painted David as an old friend who been supporting her through a difficult time, rather than the affair partner he was. When pressed about the resources wasted on the fake kidnapping search, she actually said, "I never asked anyone to look for me. That was Mark's decision." My phone started ringing again. This time it was my boss. "Mark, I've seen the news. Take all the time you need, but just so you know, your wife contacted HR this morning." "She what?" "She's claiming workplace harassment. Says you've been sending her threatening messages since she was found." I hadn't sent her a single text. Hadn't spoken a word to her since seeing her at the police station. "This is insane," I whispered. "I know, we're not taking it seriously, but I wanted to give you a heads up. Document everything, Mark. Something's not right with her." I thanked him and hung up, then immediately called the detective handling the case. While waiting for him to call back, I checked my email. 3 interview requests from news outlets. A message from Rebecca's lawyer warning me not to speak publicly about the alleged incident. And most bizarrely, dozens of messages from strangers, some offering support, others calling me horrible names for driving her to this. The internet had taken sides already, splitting into Team Mark and Team Rebecca camps without knowing a damn thing about either of us. My brother helped me draft a short statement to send to the detective and anyone who contacted me. I am cooperating fully with the ongoing investigation and have no further comment at this time. Boring, safe, lawyer approved, by my brother's friend who practices family law and took pity on me. Around noon, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Hey, it's David. We need to talk. I nearly threw my phone across the room. The audacity of this guy to contact me. I showed my brother, who advised against responding. Nothing good will come from engaging with either of them right now, he said. But 10 minutes later, another text came through. It's not what you think. Rebecca's been lying to me too. Check your email. Against my better judgment, I did. There was a new message from an anonymous account containing screenshots of conversations between Rebecca and David going back months. In them, she complained about me constantly, fabricated arguments we never had, claimed I done things I would never do. She told him I was emotionally abusive, that I controlled the finances, we had separate accounts plus one joint account, and she earned more than me, that I cheated on her multiple times, completely false. But the most damning part was their planning for the fake kidnapping. It wasn't a spontaneous decision for a romantic weekend. It was a calculated plan. Once Mark calls the cops, I'll play the victim when they find me. He'll look like the controlling husband who drove me away. With the restraining order, I can get him out of the house, claim abuse during the divorce. His name will be Mud. There was more. Details about how they planned to drain our accounts while I was distracted by the kidnapping search. How she already consulted a divorce attorney who advised her to establish a pattern of abuse claims. I forwarded everything to the detective and my brother's lawyer friend, hands shaking with a mixture of rage and relief. Relief because at least now I knew I wasn't crazy. She really was trying to destroy me. Within an hour, the detective called back. We're going to need you to come in again, Mr. Lawson. There's been a development in the case. When I arrived at the police station, the detective led me to the same interview room as before. This time, there was another man waiting. A stern-faced guy in his 40s wearing an ill-fitting suit. Mr. Lawson, this is Agent Carlson with the FBI's Criminal Investigation Division. My stomach dropped. The FBI? Am I in trouble? No, sir, Agent Carlson said. But your wife might be in considerably more trouble than she anticipated. They explained that what had started as a local police matter had escalated when they discovered certain patterns in Rebecca's behavior. The screenshots David sent me had been just the tip of the iceberg. After obtaining warrants for Rebecca and David's phones and email accounts, they uncovered something much bigger. Your wife has done this before, the detective said flatly. I stared at him, uncomprehending. Done? What before? The fake kidnapping scheme. Well, variations of it. Agent Carlson slid a folder across the table. Inside were police reports from 3 different states over the past 8 years. Different names, but the same woman in the photos, Rebecca. She apparently used various aliases, married at least 2 other men before me, and run similar scams on them. In Michigan, she was Karen Miller. She married a dentist, claimed to be kidnapped while on a business trip, was found at a hotel with another man, then accused her husband of abuse when he filed for divorce. She emptied their accounts during the chaos and disappeared before charges could be filed. I felt like I was in a bizarre dream. The woman in the Michigan driver's license photo was definitely Rebecca, but with dark brown hair instead of blonde. In Arizona, she was Jennifer Taylor. Similar story, different husband, different lover. That time she got about $86,000 before vanishing. My head was spinning. But I did a background check before we got married. We both did. Nothing came up. She's very good at creating new identities, Agent Carlson said. And until now, no one connected the dots between the cases because she changed her appearance and moved across the country each time. The detective looked genuinely sympathetic. The only reason we caught it this time is because her accomplice decided to turn on her. David? Yes, apparently, he got cold feet when he saw how big the search for her had become. He didn't realize she'd done this before, and when he confronted her about it after seeing the news coverage, she slipped up and revealed too much. He recorded their conversation. They played me a clip from David's phone. Rebecca's voice was unmistakable. "Relax, baby. I've done this twice before and never got caught. By the time Mark figures out what happened to our accounts, I'll be long gone. And you'll be set up in that beach house we talked about." David: "You said this was about getting away from your controlling husband, not stealing his money." Rebecca: "God, you're so naive. Why do you think I picked him in the first place? Stable job, trusting nature, no family nearby to interfere, perfect Mark. Just like the dentist in Michigan and that software guy in Phoenix. I felt physically ill listening to it. 6 years of marriage, and I never really knew her at all. She was planning to clean out our accounts, but I checked. Everything's still there. We froze all your joint assets as soon as we identified the pattern," the detective explained. "She tried to make a substantial withdrawal yesterday but couldn't." Agent Carlson leaned forward. "Mr. Lawson, your wife, or whatever her real name is now facing federal charges for identity fraud, wire fraud, and crossing state lines to commit these crimes, in addition to the local charges for the false kidnapping report. We believe there may be other victims we haven't identified yet." I nodded numbly. "What happens now? Bringing her in for questioning. Given the evidence and the flight risk she presents, she'll likely be held without bail this time." As if on cue, the detective's phone buzzed. He checked it, then looked up with a strange expression. "Well, this just got more complicated. Local news station just received an email from your wife. She's claiming she's the real victim in all this, that you and David conspired to frame her, and that she's actually in hiding from both of you. That's insane. You have the evidence right there." I gestured wildly at the folders. "We know, Mr. Lawson. But she's just turned this into a media circus." He wasn't kidding. By the time I left the station an hour later, #Team Rebecca and #Team Mark were the top trending hashtags nationally. News vans had set up camp outside our house. My phone was blowing up with messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years, either offering support or, horrifyingly, accusing me of framing my poor wife. Someone had leaked the FBI's involvement, but not the reason why, leading to wild speculation online. Conspiracy theories were spreading faster than facts. Rebecca's tearful interview was playing on repeat on the local news, now intercut with serious-looking anchors discussing new developments in the case. I went to my brother's house to avoid the media frenzy. His wife made me dinner that I couldn't eat. Their kids, oblivious to the drama, asked where Aunt Rebecca was. I had no idea how to answer. That night, I got an alert on my phone. Someone had tried to access my bank account repeatedly and triggered a security lockdown. Then another alert. Someone was trying to reset my email password. She's getting desperate, my brother said, watching me deal with the security alerts. That's good. Desperate people make mistakes. Around midnight, I received a text from an unknown number. "This isn't over, Mark. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I always win." I showed it to my brother, who immediately called the detective. They traced the number to a burner phone purchased that day at a convenience store. The security camera showed Rebecca buying it, wearing a dark wig and sunglasses. She was supposed to be under surveillance. Somehow, she slipped away. The next 48 hours were absolute chaos. Rebecca had vanished without a trace, slipping through the surveillance net the police had placed on her. An APB went out nationwide, her face plastered across every news outlet and social media platform. The FBI officially announced the investigation into her history of fraud and false kidnapping reports, turning what had been a local scandal into national news. I couldn't go anywhere without being recognized. My face was on TV alongside hers, usually with headlines like, "Victim of elaborate marriage scam," or "Husband targeted by serial con artist." People stopped me in the grocery store. A woman hugged me at a gas station, telling me she'd been praying for me. A barista refused to let me pay for my coffee. The internet had fully transformed into a true crime community overnight, with amateur detectives combing through Rebecca's and her previous identities, social media. They found connections I never knew existed. Trips she'd taken that she'd told me were for work but had actually been to meet with David. Photos of expensive purchases she'd hidden from me. Even evidence that she'd been scoping out her next potential victim while still married to me. My inbox filled with messages from strangers, some supportive, some accusing me of various conspiracies, and disturbingly, quite a few from women asking me out. Apparently, being the victim of a sociopathic con artist made me appealing to a certain demographic. Going viral in a way I've never seen before, my brother said, scrolling through yet another news site featuring my story. People are invested. Lucky me, I muttered. The FBI set up an official tip line for Rebecca sightings. They received hundreds of calls in the first day alone. Most false alarms. People seeing Rebecca lookalikes in airports and shopping malls across the country. Agent Carlson kept me updated, though I could tell they were withholding certain operational details. On day 2 of the manhunt, I received a package at my brother's house. A plain manila envelope with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a lipstick kiss mark and the words, "See you soon, husband." The FBI took it for analysis, adding intimidation of a witness to Rebecca's growing list of charges. That night, unable to sleep, I went through our wedding photos, searching for signs I should have seen, clues to her true nature. In one image, Rebecca was laughing with a woman I hadn't recognized at the time. Her cousin from Seattle. Looking at it now, I realized it was the same woman who been identified as her accomplice in the Arizona scam. They'd been working together for years. The FBI confirmed my suspicion hours later. They identified at least 3 accomplices who worked with her over the years. Agent Carlson told me, this isn't just one woman running scams. It's a small, coordinated group targeting wealthy or financially stable men. But I am not wealthy, I protested. No, but you had something more valuable to her operation, credibility. Your job at the investment firm, your clean background, your community standing. She was using your reputation to set up her next, bigger scams. That revelation was somehow worse than anything else. The idea that our entire marriage had been a long con, positioning her for something bigger. On day 3, around 3 a.m., my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Hello? I answered cautiously. Mark? It's David. His voice was shaking. What do you want? I wasn't exactly feeling charitable toward the man who been sleeping with my wife, even if he had eventually done the right thing. She's here. At my place. His voice dropped to a whisper. She broke in while I was sleeping. She has a gun, Mark. She says she's going to kill me, then come for you, unless I help her get out of the country. My heart raced. Call the police. I did. I managed to send a text before she took my phone. I am using my work phone now. She's in the other room going through my laptop. Are the police coming? Yes, but there was a crash in the background. Shit, she's coming back. I have to. The line went dead. I immediately called Agent Carlson, who confirmed SWAT was already en route to David's apartment. He ordered me to stay put with my brother and the protective detail they assigned me. The next 2 hours were the longest of my life. No news, no updates. Finally, at 5:47 a.m., Agent Carlson called. We got her. The relief was so intense I nearly collapsed. What happened? David managed to keep her talking until SWAT could move in. She fired 2 shots, no injuries, before being taken into custody. She had fake passports, $30,000 in cash, and a one-way ticket to Belize. It's over, I whispered, more to myself than to him. It's over, he confirmed. And with the evidence they gathered, plus her attempted flight, she's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. I sat in my brother's kitchen as the sun rose, trying to process everything that had happened in less than a week. My marriage was a lie. My wife was a con artist facing federal prison. And somehow, I had become a household name, my personal tragedy dissected by strangers online. The aftermath has been strange. Rebecca's trial is scheduled for next year, but her initial arraignment was a media spectacle. She pleaded not guilty to all charges, of course. Her defense team is trying to paint her as the victim of manipulative men and untreated trauma, a narrative that's finding surprisingly fertile ground in certain corners of the internet. As for me, they received book offers, podcast interview requests, and even a few preliminary calls about movie rights. My brother thinks I should capitalize on the situation. Turn lemons into million-dollar lemonade, as he puts it. I am still not sure. What I am sure about is that I am filing for divorce immediately, changing my phone number, and considering a move to a new city. Possibly a new name. The viral fame is already fading. There's always a newer, more shocking story to capture public attention, but the damage to my trust may be permanent. 3 weeks after Rebecca's arrest, I visited her in jail. Not because I wanted closure or had anything to say to her, but because the FBI thought it might prompt her to reveal information about other victims or accomplices. She sat across from me in an orange jumpsuit, still somehow looking put together despite the circumstances. "You should thank me, she said, with that same smile that had once made me feel like the luckiest man alive. "Thank you? For what exactly? Before me, you were nobody. Now everyone knows your name. Famous." I leaned forward. "I never wanted fame. I wanted a wife who actually loved me." She laughed. "Love is for greeting cards and idiots. At least I made your life interesting." As I stood to leave, she called after me. "They'll make a movie about us someday. Make sure they cast someone hot to play me." I didn't look back. Yesterday, I received a letter from a man in Oregon who recognized Rebecca from the news. 10 years ago, she was Amanda, his fiancée who disappeared with his grandmother's jewelry and $40,000 in wedding funds. He never reported it because she had compromising photos of him she threatened to release. There have been others coming forward too. The FBI now believes Rebecca and her accomplices have conned at least 11 men across 7 states over the past decade. Sometimes I wake up thinking this was all an elaborate nightmare. Then I check my phone and see another news alert about the kidnapping con artist, or get recognized at the coffee shop. Life goes on, though. I am in therapy now, trying to understand how I missed so many red flags. They reconnected with old friends I lost touch with during my marriage. Rebecca had subtly isolated me from many of them, I realize now. My company has been surprisingly supportive, even offering me a transfer to our Seattle office if I want a fresh start. Most unexpectedly, they become somewhat of an unofficial spokesperson for fraud victims. They've spoken at 2 support groups already, sharing my story with others who they've been deceived by people they loved. It helps, somehow, to transform this humiliation into something useful. As for Rebecca, her trial starts in February. Her defense team is already floating an insanity plea, claiming childhood trauma led to dissociative identity disorder. The experts say it won't fly. She's too calculating, too deliberate in her actions. The strangest part of all this? In some twisted way, her final message to me was right. I was nobody before, just an ordinary guy living an ordinary life. Now I am Mark Lawson, survivor of the kidnapping deception, with a story strangers know by heart. But I traded all this notoriety in a heartbeat for what I thought I had. A normal marriage to a woman who actually loved me. If there's any silver lining to this disaster, it's that they learned to trust my instincts. The signs were there all along, I just refused to see them. That's the lesson I share in my support groups. That little voice inside that says something's not right. Listen to it. I've been approached about writing a book about my experience. Maybe I will. Maybe telling this story fully will help someone else spot the signs I missed. For now, though, I am focusing on rebuilding my life, one genuine connection at a time. Thank you all for watching this incredible story. If you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next fascinating life stories. Click on the bell to receive notifications about new videos. Every day we tell the most interesting and dramatic stories from real life. Also, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done in the protagonist's shoes? Would you have noticed the red flags earlier?